This is Lesson 1-9 from the Algebra Readiness textbook. For this lesson, you will need a sharpened pencil and your notes packet. Pause the video now, gather your things, work the study guide problems, and then press continue when you're done. All right, for the first review problem, we've got 7 minus negative 10. We learned that subtracting integers is the same as adding the opposite. So 7 plus the opposite of negative 10 is 10, and so our answer is 17. The second one, 64 minus negative 42. Again, it's a subtraction problem, which is the same as adding the opposite. So the subtraction becomes adding, and we take the opposite of negative 42, which is positive 42, and we get 64 plus 42, which is 106. The next problem, you are conducting a science experiment. The temperature of a mixture is negative 59 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature is then raised by 150 degrees and then lowered by 60 degrees. Write an expression to compute the predicted temperature. So if it says lowered, we're going to subtract. If it says raised, we're going to add. So you should have written negative 59 plus 150 minus 60. Then it says, what will the temperature be? Well, the first thing that you need to do is take negative 59 plus 150. And you get 91 minus 60. 91 minus 60 is 31 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, the lesson target for today's lesson is to be able to multiply and divide integers. If at the end of this lesson you are not able to do this lesson target, you need to be seeking extra help. All right, so we're going to start with multiplication, and I want you to think of multiplication as repeated addition. Remember, when you were younger, when you learned about multiplication, you learned that you could call 5 plus 5 plus 5 the same as 3 sets of 5, or 3 times 5, which is 15. So the same idea is true, except I'm going to give you the multiplication problem, and you're going to write it as repeated addition. The first one is done for us. The first one is 3 times negative 5. That means 3 groups of negative 5. So here is my 1, 2, 3 groups of negative 5. Negative 5 plus negative 5 is negative 10. Negative 10 plus negative 5 is negative 15. Okay, continuing with that pattern, 5 times negative 4. Again, that means 5 groups of negative 4. So I'm going to write negative 4 5 times. Negative 4 plus negative 4 plus negative 4 plus negative 4 plus negative 4. When I take negative 4 and I add it together 5 times, I get negative 20. The same thing is true with this one. 2 groups of negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 8. Nope, I'm sorry, plus negative 8. So negative 8 plus negative 8 is negative 16. The next one means 4 groups of negative 10. 4 groups of negative 10 would be negative 10, plus negative 10, plus negative 10. And I end up with negative 40. So what do you notice about the signs and the sums? Do you see that in all of these problems, I have a positive first number and a negative second number? And my answers all are negative because I continuously go further negative. That's going to be important because that's going to be the pattern. So let's see if this pattern that we found is always true. Think about how you could model those problems with tiles or in a number line. So with tiles, two sets of -6 would look like this. One set of -6 would look like this. Two sets of -6 with our tiles would look like this. I clearly have 12 negative tiles. Look at the next one, 4 times -3. Well, that is one set of -3, two sets of -3, three sets of -3, four sets of -3. When I add those all together, I'm left with 12 negative tiles. Letter C, 7 times -2. So I would have 7 sets of 2. And so when I count up or take the sum of all of those tiles, I have 14 negative tiles. Now, did the pattern hold true? My first numbers are all positive, or one of the numbers is all positive, and the second number isn't a negative number. So a positive times a negative, it looks like I always end up with a negative answer. So let's write this down in your notes. If you are multiplying two numbers and they have the exact same sign, we are going to have a positive answer. Okay, try this. 2 times 3, both positive numbers, and I get a positive 6. -2 times -3 is also positive 6. Now, if the signs are different, like the ones we just talked about, 2 times -3, that's two groups of -3. And so my answer is negative. Or if the first number is negative, -2 times 3. This is three groups of -2. And so I would still have a negative answer. All right, make sure you put your examples down. Those are going to be important for you to refer back to. All right, let's put this to work. We're going to use the rules of multiplying integers. Remember, same sign equals positive. Opposite signs, negative answer. So let's start. These are two different ways of illustrating multiplication. One is a dot and one is parentheses. That's two multiplication problems here. So I'm going to multiply from left to right. So starting here, -3 times 5. Well, -3 is negative and 5 is positive. They have different signs. My answer will be negative. 5 times 3 is 15. -15 times -4. 15 is negative, 4 is negative. The sign of my answer is positive. You do not have to write the plus sign. I'm just doing so for you while we're just learning it. But any number without a sign is assumed to be positive. 15 times 4 is 60. Okay? Pause the video, give these three a try, and come on back and compare your answers. All right, so for this one, -4 times 8 is -32. -32 times -2, that's the same sign, so I get a positive 64 as my answer. Letter B, multiplying from left to right, 6 times -3 is -18. -18 times 5 gives me a -90. And lastly, letter C, -7 times a -14. I see that both numbers are negative, so I will have a positive answer. When I take 14 times 7, I get 98, and so it's a positive 98. Then I multiply it by 0, and my answer is 0. And I bet some of you knew that answer was going to be 0 before you even started. Good job. All right, so the next thing we have, that's really all there is to multiplying. There's nothing more than that. What you're going to find, though, that's really handy is that our rules for dividing integers are exactly the same. If the two numbers being divided have the same sign, your answer will always be positive. Make sure you get that in your notes. And if the two numbers being divided have different signs, the answer will always be negative. So let's apply the same exact rules to division, because division is the inverse of multiplication. All right, so negative 32 divided by 8. The two numbers have different signs, so I know my answer is negative. Then I'd simply divide. 32 divided by 8 is 4. My answer is negative 4. Letter B, negative 48 divided by negative 6. Both numbers are negative. If the numbers have the same sign, that they're both negative, my answer will be positive. 48 divided by 6 is 8. My answer is a positive 8. Letter C, negative 56 divided by negative 4. The signs are the same, so I know my answer is positive. 56 divided by 4 is 14. So I get a positive 14 as my answer. Okay, letter D, find the average. This is the same as the mean you might remember from 6th grade, and that's when we add up all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. So, add all and divide. Okay, so let's try that. 4 plus negative 3 plus negative 5 plus 2 plus negative 8. Okay, giving this a try. 4 plus negative 3. Now you've got to remember the addition rules from the last couple lessons. Now here I've got 4 positive chips and 3 negative chips, which makes those, and then I have 3 negatives. And so I end up with 3 0 pairs here, so I'm left with a positive 1. Do you remember that now? All right, it gets confusing when you start mixing the operations. Plus negative 5 plus 2 plus negative 8. Okay, so now the next step. 1 plus negative 5 gives me negative 4. Negative 4 plus 2, I'm more negative than I am positive, so negative 2 plus negative 8. Negative 2 plus negative 8, so that's like going back 2 on the number line and going back 8 more, or having 2 negative tiles and adding 8 more negative tiles. My answer is negative 10. Now, this is the sum. So now I need to divide by the number of numbers. 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 numbers. So my next step is to take negative 10 divided by 5, or a negative divided by positive are different signs. So my solution is negative. So the average or mean of those given numbers is negative 2. All right, so the next step is to be able to compare by simplifying. Pause the video, give these a try. It's a lot of mixed practice from all of chapter 1, and then come on back to see how well you did. All right, so the first one, a negative times a negative is a positive. 20 times 5 is positive 100. And then the absolute value of negative 10 is 10. 10 times 10 is 100. So I'm comparing 100 on the left and 100 on the right. I know that those two are equal. The next problem, 121 divided by negative 11. A positive times a negative is divided by a negative is a negative. The signs are different, so my answer is negative 11. Now, the top, I learned this during chapter 1, that a fraction bar is really a grouping symbol. So I need to simplify the numerator before I can do any dividing. And I get negative 15 times negative 3 is a positive 45. Positive 45 divided by negative 9 is negative 5. So I'm comparing negative 11 and negative 5. Negative 5 is greater than negative 11 because it is further to the right on the number line. All right, the last one. Negative 54 divided by 9 is negative 5. 21 divided by negative 3 is negative 7. When I'm comparing these, negative 5 is further to the right on the number line, so it is greater. All right, last problem of this lesson. Deep sea exploration in a word problem format. How might you see this? If or after it is launched from a boat, the deep rover descends 60 feet every minute. Where is it in relation to sea level 3 minutes after its launch? So if it's descending 60 feet, so here's sea level right here at 0. See that on the right-hand side of your screen? So this is sea level. Now, it's going to descend 60 feet every minute. So there's another one. So each one of these hops is 1 minute worth of time. So you can see from our number line that when we solve the math problem, we should be at negative 180 feet. So what does that look like is represented by numbers? It would be 3 groups of negative 60. 3 times 60 is 180. Positive times negative is negative 180 feet. All right, so today we talked about how to multiply and divide integers. If you're still struggling with it, please make sure you're seeking some extra help. Your homework for today is page 48, 38 through 53. Please show all of your work. You can skip, I should mention, skip 47. Make sure you show your work and fix those mistakes when you correct it.